The flickering neon sign of the Cosmic Cafe cast long, distorted shadows across the rain-slicked street. Inside, the air hung thick with the smell of scent coffee and something vaguely metallic. I nervously adjusted my tie, a shimmering, iridescent fabric I'd picked up at a spaceport bazaar. Tonight was the night. I was going to an alien wedding. Not just any alien wedding. Mind you, this was a multi-species affair, a grand celebration of interstellar harmony. And I, Ben, a humble xenolinguist, had somehow snagged an invite. I still couldn't believe my luck. I'd been studying the Zidonian culture for years, their complex vocalizations, their intricate social rituals. But this was beyond anything I'd ever read in a textbook. The cafe door chimed and a tall, slender figure with skin like polished obsidian glided in. It was Xylo, my Zidonian contact, and the one who had extended the surprising invitation. Ben. Xylo's voice resonated, a series of clicks and whistles translated by the small implant in my ear. You made it. The ceremony is about to begin. I nodded, tried to appear nonchalant, though my heart was pounding like a drum solo. Xylo led me through the back of the cafe, down a dimly lit corridor and into a hidden chamber. The transformation was astonishing. The grimy cafe exterior gave way to a breathtaking hall, its walls adorned with bioluminescent flora and intricate, swirling patterns that shifted and changed color. Beings of all shapes and sizes milled about, their languages a symphony of clicks, chirps, and hums. I felt a surge of excitement, mixed with a healthy dose of apprehension. I was the only human here. Xylo introduced me to several Zidonians, explaining my research and my genuine interest in their culture. They were polite, curious, even welcoming. One Zidonian, with shimmering emerald eyes, offered me a drink. It looked like a swirling nebula in a glass. I took a tentative sip. It tasted surprisingly like blueberries. As the ceremony began, a hush fell over the hall. A group of Zidonian females, each more stunning than the last, entered the chamber. They were the brides. I watched, fascinated, as the intricate rituals unfolded, the exchange of gifts, the chanting, the symbolic linking of hands. It was beautiful, moving, and utterly alien. Xylo leaned closer. Ben, he said, his voice a low rumble, there's something you should know about Zidonian marriage. He explained that it wasn't like human marriage. It was a union not just between two individuals, but between a male and the entire female lineage of a clan. My mind reeled. I was starting to understand why there were so many brides. But then Xylo dropped the bombshell. The groom, he continued, is chosen by lot. And tonight, he paused, his gaze meeting mine. Tonight, the lot fell on you. My blood ran cold. I was going to be married to all of them. I looked at the beautiful Zidonian women. Their eyes now focused on me, a mixture of curiosity and anticipation. The hall seemed to spin. I opened my mouth to protest, to explain that this was a terrible misunderstanding, that I was just a researcher, not a husband. But the words caught in my throat. Before I could say anything, a high-pitched shriek echoed through the hall. All eyes turned to the entrance. A figure, cloaked in shadows, stood there, and I knew, with a chilling certainty, that this night was about to get a whole lot stranger. The cloaked figure remained motionless, a silhouette against the backdrop of the shimmering hall. A low murmur rippled through the crowd. Xylo's obsidian face was unreadable. "What is the meaning of this?" he asked, his voice now laced with an edge of concern. The figure didn't answer. Instead, it slowly raised a hand, revealing a gleaming, curved blade. It was a Zytheri dagger, a ceremonial weapon, but this one seemed different. It pulsed with a faint, internal light. Fear tightened its grip on my chest. What was happening? I was supposed to be learning about Zidonian culture, not witnessing some kind of coup? The figure spoke, its voice a raspy whisper that amplified through the hall. The prophecy, it has been fulfilled. The word sent a chill down my spine. Prophecy? What prophecy? I glanced at the Zidonian brides. Their expressions had shifted from anticipation to apprehension. Even the emerald-eyed woman who had offered me the blueberry-like drink looked worried. Xylo stepped forward, his posture tense. "Explain yourself," he demanded. The figure chuckled, a dry, rattling sound. The outsider, he comes seeking knowledge, but he brings chaos. The ancient text foretold this. His presence will disrupt the balance, unleash the shadows. My mind raced. Outsider? Chaos? Was this about me? Had my mere presence somehow triggered this prophecy? It seemed impossible, absurd, yet the fear in the eyes of the Zidonians was undeniable. The figure raised the HFY dagger. The sacrifice must be made, it hissed. The blood of the outsider will appease the ancient ones. Sacrifice? Blood? My heart pounded against my ribs. This wasn't just a wedding anymore. This was a nightmare. I looked around desperately for an escape, but the hall was sealed, the only exit blocked by the cloaked figure. I was trapped. Xylo stepped in front of me, his body a shield. "You will not touch him," he growled. "He is our guest." The figure laughed. "Guest? He is a pawn in a game far greater than you can comprehend. Xylo, the fate of Zywithar hangs in the balance." Xylo's eyes flashed. "Then we will face that fate together. We will not sacrifice an innocent." He gestured to the other Zidonians. "Stand with me. Protect the outsider." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. Some of the Zidonians moved to stand beside Xylo, forming a protective barrier around me, but others hesitated, their faces etched with doubt and fear. The figure's words had clearly sown discord. The cloaked figure lunged forward, the HFY dagger flashing. Xylo met the attack, his obsidian skin deflecting the blade. They clashed, a whirlwind of motion and sound. The other Zidonians joined the fray, some fighting alongside Xylo, others retreating in terror. The beautiful hall was now a battleground, the air thick with tension and the scent of ozone. I stood frozen, caught in the middle of this chaos, my mind reeling. What had I stumbled into? What was this prophecy? And what was my role in it? As the fight raged around me, I noticed something strange. The emerald-eyed woman, the one who had offered me the drink, wasn't fighting. She stood apart from the others, her gaze fixed on me. There was no fear in her eyes, only sadness. She raised her hand, and a faint, shimmering light emanated from her palm. It was the same light that pulsed within the HFY dagger. My breath caught in my throat. What was she doing? Was she with the cloaked figure? Or was she trying to help me? I couldn't tell. But as she began to chant in a low, melodic voice, I knew that whatever she was doing, it was connected to the prophecy, to the chaos, to me. The fight continued, the clash of weapons echoing through the hall. But my attention was focused on the woman, on the shimmering light in her hand, on the strange, unsettling feeling that I was somehow at the center of it all. The future of Zywithar, it seemed, rested on my shoulders, a burden I never asked for, a destiny I didn't understand. And as the woman's chant reached a crescendo, I felt a strange pull, a connection to the light, to the prophecy, to the unknown. The world around me began to blur, the sounds of battle fading into a distant hum. I felt myself falling into a darkness, a void, a place where the answers to all my questions might just be waiting. I awoke with a gasp, disoriented. The chaotic scene of the battle was gone, replaced by a swirling vortex of colors. I felt weightless, adrift in a sea of light and energy. Then, images began to coalesce, fragmented memories, glimpses of the Zidonian brides, the cloaked figure, the emerald-eyed woman. It was as if I was experiencing their thoughts, their fears, their hopes. I saw the cloaked figure's burning desire to protect Zywithar from some unseen threat, a threat linked to the prophecy and, inexplicably, to me. I saw the emerald-eyed woman's conflict, her loyalty to her people warring with a strange sense of compassion. For me? Why? Then, the images shifted, revealing the prophecy itself. It wasn't written in words, but in a series of vivid, symbolic visions. I saw a star falling from the sky, a shadow engulfing Zywithar, and a human figure standing at the center of it all. The visions were terrifying, filled with destruction and despair. But there was also a glimmer of hope, a faint light that seemed to emanate from a human figure. Was I that figure? Was I destined to either save Zywithar or destroy it? The weight of the universe seemed to press down on me. Suddenly, the visions vanished, and I found myself back in the hall. The battle was still raging, but it was different now. The cloaked figure was weakened, his movements sluggish. Xylo, though injured, fought with renewed ferocity. The emerald-eyed woman stood apart, her chant growing louder, the light in her hand pulsing brighter. She looked at me, her eyes filled with urgency. "You must choose," she whispered, her voice echoing in my mind. "The fate of Zythar rests in your hands." Choose? Choose what? I didn't understand. I was just a xenolinguist, a researcher. I wasn't a warrior, a prophet, a savior. Or was I? The emerald-eyed woman extended her hand towards me. The light from her palm reached out, touching my forehead. A surge of energy coursed through my body, and my mind exploded with knowledge. I understood the prophecy now, the true meaning behind the visions. The falling star wasn't a literal star, but a metaphorical representation of an external force, a cosmic event that threatened to destabilize Zythar's delicate ecosystem. The shadow wasn't a malevolent entity, but the consequence of this destabilization: ecological collapse, social unrest, the end of their civilization. And the human figure, that was me, not because I was special, but because I was the catalyst. My presence on Zythar had triggered the prophecy, not because of anything I had done, but simply because I was different, an outsider. The emerald-eyed woman's chant reached its peak. The light in her hand intensified, becoming a blinding beacon. She turned to the cloaked figure, her eyes filled with sorrow. "It is not his blood that is needed," she said, her voice ringing with power. "It is his choice." The cloaked figure faltered, his weapon falling to the ground. He looked at me, his face etched with confusion and understanding. He saw it now, the truth of the prophecy, the real danger that threatened Zythar. It wasn't me. It was something far greater, something cosmic. The emerald-eyed woman turned back to me. "You must choose," she repeated, her voice softer now. "Will you embrace your role, become the catalyst for Zythar's salvation, or will you succumb to fear, allow the shadow to consume us all?" The weight of her words, the weight of Zythar's future, pressed down on me, crushing me. I looked at the Zidonian brides, their faces filled with hope and fear. I looked at Xylo, his eyes pleading. I looked at the cloaked figure, his posture now resigned. And I looked at the emerald-eyed woman, her gaze unwavering. The answer was there, within me, a choice that would determine the fate of an entire civilization. But as I opened my mouth to speak, a tremor shook the hall, the bioluminescent flora flickering wildly. The ground began to crack, and a low, guttural growl echoed from the depths of Zythar. The falling star had arrived. The ground bucked violently, throwing the Zidonians off their feet. Cracks snaked across the hall floor, glowing with an ominous red light. The guttural growl intensified, resonating deep within the bones. It wasn't just a tremor. It was something far more terrifying. The falling star wasn't just an external force. It was a creature, a being of immense power, awakened from its ancient slumber. Panic erupted in the hall. The Zidonian screamed, scrambling for safety. Xylo rushed to my side, his face grim. "We have to get out of here," he shouted over the din. "That's a KRYL. They're beyond anything we can comprehend." KRYL? What was a KRYL? Before I could ask, the hall's ceiling shattered, and a colossal, shadowy form descended from the darkness above. It was a creature of nightmare, its body a writhing mass of tentacles and chitinous plates, its eyes glowing with malevolent intelligence. It was larger than anything I had ever seen, its presence radiating an aura of pure terror. This was the true threat, the real reason for prophecy. The falling star, the KRYL, had come to Zythar, and it was hungry. The KRYL unleashed a deafening roar, a sound that seemed to tear the very fabric of reality. It lashed out with its tentacles, smashing through the bioluminescent flora, sending shards of crystal flying. Zidonians were thrown about like rag dolls, their cries of terror echoing through the crumbling hall. The cloaked figure, despite his earlier aggression, now stood frozen, his face pale with fear. Even the emerald-eyed woman seemed overwhelmed, the light in her hand flickering weakly. Xylo pulled me towards a hidden passage behind a fallen pillar. "We have to go," he urged. "There's no time to explain." But I couldn't just leave. I looked at the Zidonian brides, huddled together in fear, their eyes pleading for help. I looked at the emerald-eyed woman, her face etched with despair. This was my choice, wasn't it? The choice the prophecy had foretold. To run, to save myself, or to stay and fight, to try and protect these people, even against a creature as terrifying as the KRYLL. As I hesitated, a new voice echoed through the hall, a voice that was both familiar and utterly unexpected. Ben! I turned to see it was my old friend and colleague, Dr. Eris Thorne, a xenobiologist who had accompanied me on the expedition to ZYR. But how? He wasn't supposed to be here. He had stayed behind on the ship. He was supposed to be safe. Eris was waving frantically at me from the other side of the hall, near the main entrance, which was still miraculously intact. He was gesturing toward a small, battered-looking spacecraft that I recognized as our emergency escape pod. Ben, get out of there, he yelled. I've managed to override the launch sequence. We can still escape. My mind reeled. Eris was alive, and he had found a way out. It was a miracle. But as I looked at him, I noticed something strange. His eyes, they weren't the same. They were vacant, and there was a faint, almost imperceptible shimmer around his body. It was the same shimmer I had seen emanating from the emerald-eyed woman's hand, the same shimmer that pulsed within the ZY Theory dagger. My blood ran cold. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Eris wasn't just trying to rescue me. He was different. Controlled? By whom? And why now? Was this another twist in the prophecy? Another layer of the chaos? As the KRYLL unleashed another earth-shattering roar, I knew I had to make a choice. Run with Eris, escape the KRYLL, possibly escape ZYR altogether, or stay, face the creature, and unravel the mystery of Eris's sudden reappearance, the mystery of the shimmering light, the mystery of the prophecy itself. The fate of ZYR, it seemed, was inextricably linked to my decision. And this time, the choice was even harder, the stakes even higher. The KRYLL shrieked again, its shadow engulfing the remaining Zidonians. Eris, or whatever had taken his form, beckoned urgently. Ben, hurry, he called, his voice distorted, unnatural. My mind raced. Eris's sudden appearance, his strange behavior, the shimmering aura, it all pointed to one terrifying conclusion. He wasn't there to save me. He was bait. The KRYLL hadn't just come to feed. It had come for something specific, something the prophecy had hinted at, a catalyst, and I was it. The emerald-eyed woman's words echoed in my mind. It is not his blood that is needed, it is his choice. I knew then what I had to do. Running wasn't an option. Not anymore. This wasn't just about me. It was about ZYR, about the Zidonians, about the balance of the universe itself. I turned to Xylo, who was struggling to defend a group of terrified Zidonian children. Xylo, I shouted, I know what to do. Get everyone out of here. Now. He looked at me, his eyes filled with disbelief. But Ben, the KRYLL, just trust me. I yelled, get them to safety. I'll hold it off. Xylo hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Go, Ben, he cried. We will find a way to help you. He rallied the remaining Zidonians, guiding them toward the hidden passages. I turned to face the KRYLL, my heart pounding in my chest. It was a suicide mission, I knew, but it was the only way. I closed my eyes, focusing on the energy that had surged in me earlier, the connection to the emerald-eyed woman, to the prophecy. I opened my eyes, and a strange calm washed over me. Fear was replaced by resolve. The KRYLL lunged, its tentacles lashing out. I dodged and weaved, channeling the energy within me. It wasn't strength, not physical power. It was something else, something deeper, a connection to the planet, to the life force of ZYR. I felt the KRYLL's hunger, its rage, but I also felt its fear. It was afraid of the very thing it sought, the catalyst, me. I extended my hand, and the same shimmering light that emanated from the emerald-eyed woman's palm began to glow. It wasn't as bright, not as powerful, but it was there. It was enough. The KRYLL hesitated, recoiling from the light. It recognized the energy, the connection to the planet. It was a force it couldn't comprehend, a power it couldn't control. The light grew stronger, and the KRYLL shrieked in pain, its shadowy form flickering. It was being repelled not by force, but by understanding, by the realization that it had come to the wrong place, that it had sought the wrong thing. The catalyst wasn't a weapon, wasn't a sacrifice. It was a key to understanding, to balance, to harmony. The KRYLL, weakened and confused, retreated through the shattered ceiling, disappearing into the darkness from whence it came. The hall fell silent. The tremor subsided. The red glow faded. I collapsed to my knees, exhausted but exhilarated. I had done it. I had faced the KRYLL, not with brute force, but with understanding, with connection. I had fulfilled the prophecy, not as a destroyer, but as a mediator. Then I heard a sound behind me, a soft, almost imperceptible click. I turned to see Eris standing there, a small device in his hand. It was a ZY Theory artifact, one of the ancient tools used for controlling minds. He smiled, a chilling, predatory smile. "You were right, Ben," he said, his voice now clear, his own. "You are the key, but not for ZY-Thar. For me." He pointed the device at me. "With your connection to the planet, I can control it all. The KRYLL, the Zidonians, everything. ZY-Thar will be mine." My blood ran cold. Eris? My trusted colleague, my friend? He had been manipulating me all along. The rescue mission, the warning about the KRYLL, it was all a carefully orchestrated plan to get me into position to exploit my connection to ZY-Thar. He wasn't trying to save me from a KRYLL. He was trying to steal my connection, to use it for his own selfish purposes. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I had been so focused on the KRYLL, on the prophecy, that I had completely overlooked the real danger, the human threat. Eris advanced, the device humming ominously. I knew I couldn't fight him physically. He had the device, and he was clearly prepared to use it. I had to outsmart him, to find a way to break free from his control. I thought back to the emerald-eyed woman, her words echoing in my mind. It is his choice. It wasn't about physical strength. It was about will, about choosing the right path. I closed my eyes, focusing on the connection to ZY-Thar, to the life force that flowed through the planet. I could feel it, a warm, vibrant energy, a connection that Eris could never truly steal, because it wasn't mine to give. It was ZY-Thar's. When I opened my eyes, I looked at Eris not with fear, but with a strange sense of pity. He was so consumed by his desire for power that he had blinded himself to the true nature of ZY-Thar, to the interconnectedness of all living things. He thought he could control the planet, but he was wrong. ZY-Thar wasn't something to be controlled. It was something to be respected, something to be understood. I took a step forward, then another. Eris hesitated, his eyes narrowing. He could sense the change in me, the shift in the balance of power. He raised the device, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. He wasn't sure what I was going to do. He didn't understand that I wasn't trying to fight him. I was trying to reach him. "Eris," I said, my voice calm, steady. "What are you doing? This isn't you. You're a scientist, a researcher. You're supposed to be exploring the mysteries of the universe, not trying to conquer it." He laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. "Conquer? Don't be naive, Ben. This isn't about exploration. It's about power. It's about control." "But control is an illusion," I replied. "You can't control ZY-Thar any more than you can control the stars. It's bigger than you, bigger than all of us. You're playing with forces you don't understand." I could see the uncertainty flickering in his eyes. My words were getting to him, planting seeds of doubt in his mind. He lowered the device slightly. "You think you're so righteous, Ben," he sneered. "But you're just as power-hungry as I am. You saved ZY-Thar, not because you care about these aliens, but because you wanted to be the hero." "That's not true," I said. "I saved ZY-Thar because it was the right thing to do, because it was my choice." I took another step closer. "Eris," I said softly, "it's not too late. You can still walk away from this. You can still be the man I know you are." He looked at me, his face a mass of conflicting emotions. He wanted to believe me. I could see it in his eyes. But the lure of power was too strong, too tempting. He shook his head, his grip tightening on the device. "It's too late, Ben," he whispered. "I've come too far." He raised the device again, and I braced myself for the worst. But then, something unexpected happened. The ground began to shake again, more violently than before. The walls of the hall crumbled, and a blinding light filled the room. It wasn't the KRYLL this time. It was something else. Something ancient, something powerful. Something that had been awakened by the disturbance, by the struggle for control. A voice echoed through the hall, a voice that was both majestic and terrifying. "You dare to try and control Ziwadar?" it boomed. "You dare to try and steal its power?" Eris froze, his face pale with terror. He knew what it was now. He had awakened the true guardian of Ziwadar, an entity far more powerful than the KRYLL, far more ancient than any prophecy. He had awakened the planet itself. The voice spoke again, its words directed at Eris. "You have disturbed the balance. You have sought to exploit what is not yours to take. Now you will pay the price." A beam of pure energy shot out from the center of the hall, engulfing Eris and the device. He screamed, a sound that was quickly cut short. When the light faded, Eris was gone, reduced to dust. The voice fell silent. The tremor subsided. The light dimmed. I stood there, stunned, overwhelmed by what had just happened. Ziwadar had defended itself. It had chosen its own champion. Not me, not Eris, but the balance itself. The emerald-eyed woman approached me, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You have shown us the way," she said. "You have shown us the true meaning of the prophecy." I looked around at the devastated hall, at the faces of the Zidonians, their fear slowly turning to awe. I wasn't a hero. I wasn't a savior. I was just a human, caught in the middle of something extraordinary. But I had learned a valuable lesson, a lesson that I would carry with me for the rest of my life. The universe is a delicate balance, a complex web of interconnectedness. And true power lies not in control, but in understanding, in respect, in choice. The choice to do what is right, even when it's hard, even when it's scary. The choice to embrace our humanity, our compassion, our connection to something greater than ourselves. And as I left Ziwadar, I knew that I would never be the same. I had seen the face of true power, and it wasn't what I expected. It was the power of balance, the power of choice, the power of humanity.